Hey, what's up everybody? So in this tutorial we're going to go over numbers in the Ruby programming language, and the first thing you want to do is check and make sure that you have Ruby installed. So I'm inside of my terminal here and I type in ruby-v and I see that I have 2.3.1. So you're going to want 2.2.2 or newer to follow along with this tutorial. And also, if you don't have Ruby installed but you want to follow along with the tutorial, then check out repl.it. You can sign up for a free account, and then there'll be a inside of the My REPLs link, there'll be a red button with the cross in the middle. Click that, search for Ruby, and then you can set up a little environment like this where you can very easily type in Ruby code and then click the run button and see the output over here on the right hand side. Okay, so going back to my terminal here, we're going to create a file where we're going to be doing most of our example. So I'm going to call it numbers.rb. So the touch command in the terminal will just create a file for you. You can use the list command or ls, and this will show you the numbers.rb file that we created. So I'm going to open this in my code editor, and I'll have these open side by side so we can kind of see what's happening. So now that we're inside of the code editor, we can go ahead and take a look at numbers. So there's two different types of numbers in Ruby. We have integers and we have floats. So an integer is like 1 or 2, 3, 4, -1, 0, etc. And then a float is anything with a decimal place and then numbers on the right side of it. So the long version is floating point number, and then the short version is just called a float. So that would be like 1.00 or 2.1, -300.97, 1.2345, 3.1425. You get the point. Got carried away there for a second. So anyway, these are our floats and these are our integers, and most of the time we'll be using integers in programming. There are use cases for floats, don't get me wrong, but most of the time we'll just be using these whole numbers or integers. So let's go ahead and do some arithmetic, some real basic math, nothing crazy, and I'll show you the different what are called operators for dealing with that. So before I get started with showing you the arithmetic operators, what I'm going to do is comment these two lines out. So in Sublime you can do command /, and it's not working because I'm still have the file set as plain text. So I actually didn't edit the numbers.rb file, so I'm going to copy this, open that file, paste it in here and save it, and then close the other one. And now you can see it's doing what we want it to. I just want to get it to wrap so that I can see everything. Okay, so again, command / on that line will comment it out. So right here you're learning that comments in Ruby are you just put an octothorpe, or what people usually call a hash or a pound sign, at the very beginning, the far left side of that line. So you could do it manually, just remove it, put it back in, and that's how you do a single line comment in Ruby. So the reason I comment these out, because if I run the Ruby file without them commented out, then we'll run into errors. So below that, I'm going to go ahead and do some arithmetic. So it's really simple. It's exactly what you think it would be. It's like 1 + 1, and that will give you 2. So I can actually put a comment on the right side as well, and I can say that this is going to be the result. Now if we save this and we run, and this is how you run files in the terminal. So back over in the terminal here, we know that the file is right here, so we can run it with the Ruby command. So we simply type Ruby numbers.rb, and nothing happens. We don't get anything back. And the reason is we have to use a special command. It's called a method. We'll learn more about methods later, but it's called puts. And so you say puts and then put a space, and then whatever comes to the right of puts is going to be printed out on the screen. So puts literally means put string, and what it does is it takes whatever's to the right of it, converts it into a string, which we'll learn about that in the next video. For now, just know that it's like text basically, and it prints it out to the screen. Really simple. So we'll save it and we'll rerun this command, and now you can see that the output is 2. So 1 + 1 gives us 2. Easy, right? Okay, so before I go forward, just go ahead and pause the video and see if you can figure out on your own how to do multiplication, division, and subtraction, and then for a bonus, see if you can do exponents. Okay, we're back. So at this point, you should have figured out how to do the multiplication and subtraction and division. We'll go ahead and do these. So we need puts on all of these. So I'm just going to go ahead and on Mac, it's Command-Shift-D. I think on PC, it's Control-Shift-D if you're in Sublime Text, and that just gives me whatever's on that line. It just moves it on to the next line, duplicates it. So now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and do 2 minus 1. And so we know that'll give us 1. And so if we run this, we get our 2, we get our 1. And now I'm going to do 3 times 5, and that'll give us 15. So I'll go ahead and run this. And mind you, I'm just putting these in comments here. This code right here is not being read by the Ruby program at all. When it sees anything to the right of a hash, then it ignores it. That's why it's ignoring this, and that's why it's ignoring this. So this output down here is from this equation right here that's happening, this statement. It has nothing to do with the comments. You could remove the comments, save the file, and run it, and you would still get the same output. Okay, so I'm just putting that there so that we know beforehand while we're reading through the code what the expected output is going to be. Okay, so now we want to do some division. So I'll do 25 divided by 5, and this is going to give us 5. So I'll run that. So we have 2, 1, 15, 5, just like we expected. Okay, so I just cleared this out for more space since it's getting down here and hiding behind the camera over here. What we want to do now is the last one, the bonus, is exponents. So 3 to the power of 3, for instance, is going to give us 27. So if we save that and we run this, we get 2, 1, 15, 5, and 27. So hopefully this is what you got beforehand. Obviously you wouldn't have known to use these numbers, but hopefully you were able to figure out that these are the different operators. Again, plus is for addition, minus subtraction, the asterisk or the star is used for multiplication, the / is used for division, and then 2 asterisks together is for exponents, or doing to the power of some number. Okay, so now let's do a couple more. We're going to do these now with floating point numbers. So again, I'm just going to get the puts here, and actually I need to put it on the next line. So we'll just get a couple of those ready, and let's see what happens when we do some arithmetic, some basic math with floating point numbers. So we'll do 1.9 plus 2.1, so that should give us 4. But is it going to give us 4? Well, actually, because we're adding 2 floating point numbers together, we get 4.0. So let's run that, and there it is, 4.0. And let's do 5.5 minus 3.5, and that should give us 2.0. Cool. Okay, so we can do something like negative 2.8 times 35.7. I actually don't know what that would equal offhand, so I'm going to save it and run it, and that gives us a pretty big number. So I'll just copy that, and we'll just stop it right here at 99.96. So we can do 800.654 divided by 22.713, and if we run that again, we get another really long one. So I'll just put those there, and then for the exponents we'll do a smaller one. So we'll say 4.6 to the power of 3.7, and we'll find out what that is equal to. Okay, and there you have it. So again, anytime you're doing arithmetic with floating point numbers, you're going to get a period or the decimal, and then in this instance we're doing 1.9 plus 2.1, which gives us 4, but it still has the 0. And then same for the next one, 2.0. And then you can see in some of these other ones, it goes quite a ways. So again, we're not going to use floats too often in Ruby, especially not when we're building out like our web applications with Rails or Sinatra, but it is good to know that they exist and they can be used at certain times. So one example of using floats, of course, would be like a calculator. If you're going to have a calculator, then you're going to want to have the ability to get exact numbers down to the exact decimal place. So what happens when we combine the two? So I'll get puts in here a couple times, and let's say 1 plus 3.4, and we'll do 5 minus, or we'll do 5.04 minus 2, and then we'll do 7.5 times 4, and 25.2 divided by 8, and then we'll do 3.9 to the power of 2. So if we save that and we run this, well, see what happens here is anytime we multiply an integer by a float, it's always going to give us back a floating point number. Even if it's what would be a whole number, 30, it's going to give us 30.0. Okay, so here's something that's a kind of an edge case. It's pretty interesting. Let's say we do something like 9 divided by 2. So take a moment and without entering this into your terminal to find out what it does, try to make a guess as to what you think it's going to give us back. Okay, so let's go ahead and save it and run it. So it gave us back 4. And obviously 9 divided by 2 is not 4, right? It's 4.5 or 4.5. But because we don't have a floating point number in the equation, we end up getting rounded down to the nearest integer. So instead of getting 4.5, we end up with 4. So that can be somewhat useful in a situation where you need to know what the nearest rounded down number is after getting the quotient, which is the number that you get when you divide two numbers. And you may find other use cases for it, but it's just important to remember how Ruby is going to behave if you do something like that. Okay, so let's do kind of a fun exercise now. I'm going to go ahead and comment all of this stuff out, and you'll see here that all the comments symbols, the octothorpe as they call it, show up on the left hand side when I select all these lines and I do the command / or control / for PC command in Sublime Text. So I just commented all of them out. I can save them, and now let's do an exercise where we're looking for how many seconds you've been alive for. So I've been alive for 27 years now, and so the equation, well, I'm not going to give it away. Go ahead and pause the video, take a moment, see if you can figure it out, and see if you can get Ruby to give you that number back. And then when you come back, we'll go through the exercise solution together. All right, welcome back. So you should have been able to figure out that to get your age in seconds, you have to just take it from years down to days, how many days are in a year, and then how many hours are in a day, how many minutes are in an hour, how many seconds are in a minute, and then multiply all those numbers together. And the end result is going to be how many seconds that you've been alive for, roughly, obviously. Okay, so we'll do puts, of course, the put string method, and whatever comes to the right of it is going to get outputted over here. And so we'll clear this out, Command K, or I think it's Control L or Control K on PC, or I think you can just type clear and hit enter. Okay, so that gives us some room to see what our output is, and now we can enter in the numbers. So 27 years. And then I want to multiply that by how many days are in a single year. So that's 365. And then how many hours are in a day? There's 24 hours in a day. How many minutes are in an hour? There's 60 minutes in an hour. And then how many seconds are in a minute? So there's 60 seconds. So if we save it and we run it now, this is approximately how many seconds I've been alive. That's a big number, 000,472, so 851,472,000. That's quite a lot. Okay, so that's it for numbers in Ruby. Not a whole lot going on there. You can do more complex math, but we're not going to get into that right now. For review, in Ruby we have two different types of numbers. We have with decimal places, otherwise called a floating point number or a float, and then we have without decimal places or whole numbers, which we call integers. And just remember that if you divide a integer by an integer, that where the quotient would be a fraction, you're not actually going to get that fraction. It's going to round down. That's it for numbers, and we'll see you in the next video.